Well, this one certainly is interesting to say the least. And I'm going to try to cover all our bases here before we get that started. Thank everybody. We're 5,000 away from 3.5 million. ISOM number one campaign, 40,719 total purchases. Thank you all so much for the support. But today we're going to talk about this bad boy right here. Now, this is something interesting. So there's an artist who's a comics pro. He does work, I believe, for Marvel right now. He could be. And Mark Brooks is his name. And I will be completely transparent here. I know that he and Gabe El-Taib, who's a colorist, had a little back and forth. He's the colorist of ISOM number one, does a phenomenal job. But to my knowledge, even though he has me blocked, which is why I'm having to look at this through this bookmark, this is the first time that I've heard he directly is referencing me in a post, and he doesn't seem too happy about what it is that we're doing. And you can also kind of snuff out the fact that he still is taking issue with some of the artists, and I'm going to speak on that here in a little bit. But this all stems from a bottom feeding YouTuber, which is hilarious, as this bottom feeder is he is one of those who like to think, hey, those types that do videos that are critical of Marvel or DC and all these other buzz terms and regarding social issues and social justice that they're into or promoting, those guys are man babies. Those guys are disrespectful. Those guys are misogynistic or homophobic, transphobic. I think this guy called me ableist, and all those sort of buzz terms that they like to use in trying to disrespect, of course, people that do videos that are critical of what's going on in modern entertainment. Now, I find that the reason why I find that so hilarious is because now the tables kind of are in a different, let's say, have the turntables, because now I'm doing my own thing. We got our own little sandbox that we built that's disconnected from them, and we're doing our own thing. And now they are doing multiple videos on me, either being very nitpicky or they're being critical of myself or what we're doing with the Rippaverse. Unlike you, I'm not going to call you, you are a pussy if nothing else. But I will say that, or rather encourage you to continue to do that. I won't tell you, if you don't like it, Don't say nothing about it, which is what they like to told us, right? No, keep doing videos. By all means, go for it. Show everybody how much full of crap that you were, and that you didn't really give a crap about people talking about their gripes. It had nothing to do with that. It's more of you didn't like their individual politics. You are what you despise. Now, Mark Brooks said, vapid writing. Guy hasn't seen the book, by the way. Uninspired art, interesting, and has been creators, wow, that haven't improved their craft in over a decade. First of all, and I won't speak on behalf of Gabe, because Gabe, he does this thing. I don't need to speak on behalf of either of these guys, but Gabe is my colorist. Gabe has no problem certainly defending himself and his deal, definitely with him being active on social media. Now, Cliff, I take issue with that because Cliff is the main artist as far as the pencil and ink work, and he doesn't say anything bad about it. He doesn't engage in a lot of this stuff that we sort of do. He's just a phenomenal artist that wants to do good work. So for him to sit up here and basically take that shot at the artist, which again, that includes Cliff and Gabe, you are a pussy, and make no mistake. And we'll have some terms. I'll talk to you about it if I ever get the chance. Let's just say that. Mark Brooks says, what else do they have to sell their books other than a made up culture war that doesn't actually exist? Now, this is the funny part, because they are trying to, this is what the previous poster did, where they act or trying to operate under this falsehood that, had it not been for us, this culture war, then we couldn't sell. Now, that's a little stupid because they don't apply that to really any other market or any other business. And it's funny because I remember very vividly, certainly going into the 90s, where you had some companies like the Images of the world who were literally started, and a lot of it was done. If you look at some of the promotional items, even when Todd McFarlane came out, I don't know if you remember that Todd McFarlane Toys ad that would run where he was specifically taking shots at the big guys, right? So that was okay, and that's fine. I don't know anybody saying, well, no, you only trying to sell that. They put that in the actual commercials. Now, I've done nothing of that nature. We always lead in our actual like ads, let's say the trailers and stuff. We're only talking about what our code of ethics is, what the actual content of the story with ISOM issue number 1. They were actually putting stuff and taking shots, had stand-ins in their commercials. It was okay for them to do that. We don't have to do anything. What we do, and this is why people like us, by the way, and why I could bet you, matter of fact, I'd bet you, let's put 10 grand on it, that you couldn't, Mark Brooks, sell as much as we did without having Marvel or DC or some massive company attached to you doing it. We've seen so many comic pros try to do that and utterly fail. But the reason why this is being mentioned, you're referencing the culture war, whatever you want to call it, I really don't care, is because it's a thing. It's identifiable. I've been talking about what my issues are, and it's not just with wokeness, with what's going on in modern comics and why I wanted to be a part of certainly the solution. Identifiable. Mountains, I got playlists dedicated where I've talked about everything when I did my old reviews, all of that sort of stuff. But all I'm doing is because I'm be it in commentary space, I have the luxury of being, I guess, personable, let's say that, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not going to stop talking about things just because I started my own company. So I can do two things at one time. I could sell a book. It can look awesome. People are entertained. People are intrigued by these concepts. Definitely when they get the book, we know they're going to be even more intrigued. But they can get this and be stoked about it, while I can also compare and contrast. I can also talk about what's going on with the comic book industry, Mr. Mark Brooks. So what happens is they conflate. So I say, hey, these guys are doing stupid things. And it actually aids. It helps. Because what happens is all these customers that you depended on for so long, that probably stuck around like myself longer than what they should have, right? They're not going to stop being interested in comic books, right? They're going to focus their attention on something else. Maybe it's manga. Maybe it's the Rippaverse. People that have been disenfranchised as comic pros like this sit up here and talk down. Definitely as they talk down on customers, which these guys have no problem doing that. They'll call my customers all sorts of names. Cool. That act, right, is why people, and maybe that's what these guys need explained to them, because they don't actually listen. They need that part explained to them. I guess you got to break it down for them so they can understand why was this project working in the way that it did. There's been other creatives that have done their own thing. They didn't make almost 3.5 million. Right? There's a lesson to be learned. And if you were one of those that actually cared about this industry, wanted more people to be in on comic books, well, you would be picking up from that. And I'm not saying you got to like me. I'm not telling you to replicate it, but there certainly is something positive to take from this. Now, if you are politically or socially, let's say, that's what you lead with, then maybe because I'm at odds with you, you think that there is, or not even I'm at odds, it's more of I'm just not what you are. And you think that may be a threat there. And of course, that just shows, or rather proves us right. Because just from a comic book perspective, from a comic book cultural perspective, there is some things that people can grab from this, make note of, implement in their own little world, even if they're doing their own comics or whatever it is. Because we have gotten verifiably a lot of people enthusiastic about comic books, man. And that's what it's about. But not for y'all. But I will say this, Mr. Mark Brooks, please do not disrespect, certainly with a video connected to me, disrespect my artist, okay? And maybe you tell me the same thing, and that's fine. But I'm just giving it to you straight. And by the way, if you want to talk about what your issues is, because you clearly don't get it at all, right? You don't understand what's happening right now, and this is the hilarious part, is that like he's taking shots, or they're has-beens is what he's like to say. Well, my books, in terms of what they consider graphic novels, have outsold virtually every single Marvel book graphic novel that they've put out, which often are just compiled old issues anyway. So who's really the has-beens here? Sure, we don't have the authorization. Access Media isn't talking about us, right? That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You can't pretend this away, bro. It's there, and we ain't going anywhere. Yo, I appreciate you as always. And if you're into comics or want to get into them, go visit Rippaverse.com, where you can check out my own comic book company, Rippaverse Publishing. Our first book, ISOM #1, is currently up for pre-order right now. You can also check out the company trailer and the ISOM campaign trailer so that you can make an informed purchase. We've cleared over $3.3 million in sales, and many of our supporters are viewers just like yourselves. And because of that, I have to thank you all personally. I do appreciate you. I can't wait for you to learn more about ISOM himself and already fan favorite Yaira. We ship internationally, so no matter what side of the globe you're on, we'd love to have you as a customer. Much love and big thanks.